So what's interesting about your limiting belief about sales or selling is whatever the number one limiting belief is where you'll stop in the sales process. So if I don't want to be perceived as being pushy, that means I'm not going to ask for a next step. Like if you don't say yes in a conversation, then I'm not going to ask for the next meeting, or I'm not going to ask for payment, or I'm not going to ask you to move forward, right? I'm going to stop and I'm going to be like, this is classic. And there's no shame in the game, by the way. This is like just how we're trained and socialized. We're not trained how to sell. Then I'll be like, okay, Jax, you know what? Just let me know. Give me a call back. Let me know in a couple days or next year how you feel about this, right? And it's the classic kind of push off because it keeps me safe.
Right.
And so to shift that, you want to look at and so once you start to see what's not true, that limiting belief, whatever it is, starts to fall away. And then you can take on a new belief. My favorite belief, which lots of people who've heard me speak love this. So everybody, you're welcome to take this on. Instead of a pushy salesperson, I am a
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline or Jax Crider, and today we have my actual personal business coach, Miss Ursula Menchies, and she is excited to be here. We're going to talk all things about like sales, limiting beliefs, ways that you're maybe not succeeding on your financial path on the work side, and so we're going to talk all about that. So welcome, Ursula. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do, because you are a phenomenally amazing woman. And so let's hear all about it.
Thank you, Jax. Thank you for your super kind words. For so many reasons, I am delighted to be sitting here with you now and seeing you bringing your podcast to life. So honored to be here. Thank you for having me. I feel the same about you. And I just know we're going to create some really great synergy today. So I don't know what's going to download, but I know some great things are. My background, the long and short of it is I'm a farm kid from Southern Minnesota who, if you would have told her that she was going to be a keynote speaker and have her own businesses someday, she would have laughed in your face. So this has been a crazy, crazy journey. What I'm doing today, I actually have two companies now. I have Ursula Inc. and then another company called Two Coaches. And it's all about coaching business owners to scale their businesses. And from truly a heart-centered place of wanting to serve your clients or customers, right? And through serving, money comes back to you. And that money that comes back to you allows you to do great things in the world, allows you to do great things for your family and live a great life. And because the entrepreneurs like you who come into our world love to give back. So it allows you to do everything from donating to your favorite nonprofit to being able to do something for your kids' school because you can, right? And for me, even when my company didn't have a lot of cash in it yet, being able to give back has always been the highlight. Being able to write a check. I used to volunteer like crazy. I won an award for volunteers. I get that part of it. And I think that's great. Entrepreneurs, we love to give back. We're always volunteering. We're always doing all the things, right? Being able to write a check though, for somebody who really needs it, that's a high. So that's the space. Those are the people like you who we attract into our world who want to grow their businesses and also want to have that ripple effect out into the world.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and it's so true. I think so many people, especially in the sales space, particularly, they feel like it has to be so cutthroat. They feel like that there is no opportunity to have that really giving heart. And that's always sort of where I've come from, even in an industry where for me, it is very cutthroat. I'm in a very, very male dominated industry. I have had, crazy situations happen, people undercutting each other and literally selling their soul for $5. And it doesn't really have to be that way. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe if you do come from a place of contribution, collaboration, right? You are trying to help people. You're trying to better your clients, right? Overall, I think that there's so much value there that so many people discount and think that, it has to be this, salesy, horrible aspect. And it's just not true, for sure.
No, the root of the word sell, the Latin root, means to serve. And I always love thinking about that. And truly, this, Jax, we're not serving someone unless we've asked enough open-ended questions to help them make a decision. And whether or not they buy from me or you, who cares? It's have I served them at a high enough level so they can decide if this is a fit? If it is, great. If it's not, who can I refer them to? What can they focus on right now? And when you come from that space, first of all, it's very relieving, right? Because it's not transactional. And then it's what we find in our world is that people either come back or they stick with you, or you've developed this relationship. And to me, that's what it's about. How can we help people through selling.
For sure. Well, and I think that a lot of times, like you said, people don't understand that the people who do have the right heart in it, that
Yeah.
that's what they do. I mean, in my space, people say all the time, like I tell people, I'm like, look, if you come to us and there is something that is a way better deal, like I'll give you an example. So a lot of times builders are trying to give away the farm. So they're
Yeah.
losing money on the mortgage side to make money on the house side, right? Very common problem. And so we'll have people, we go through the whole qualification process. We've done all the work. We've gotten them all set up for success. And then they end up buying a new build and the builder's just offering way too good incentives. And so we always tell them, hey, when that happens, let us look at it. Let us make sure that what they're offering is actually above board, because sometimes they do this weird shell game that's not very understood by the consumer and it really complicates kind of the math for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but if they're going to be a 10 times better deal, I'm not going to hold you back and tell you, oh man, no, screw that. We did all the work. You should have to come to us. That's just not, it's not my heart. Because if I want you to refer me, people come back, right, to be able to be a service to you and your family forever, that's not going to happen if you feel like I hosed you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been in that situation on the other side of the table. I remember the first real estate deal we ever did. At the very last second, you'll appreciate the story. At the very last second, we were told we had to bring another $6,000 to the table. Tim and I were new in the real estate world. We were kids. We were 22 years old. I was like, I don't know where we're going to get that money. And we weren't going to go ask our family. And so then I happened to be having a conversation with someone and they're like, oh, you should talk to my guy, Patrick. This was like 20 years ago, right? Or even more than that. I don't even know the years. Patrick was like you. So we got to go hold this guy called Patrick. And he was like, oh no. Like he totally redid the loan, took those hidden fees out, all the stuff. And of course we live in a time today where that probably could never happen because the laws have changed so much. This was back in California, but that was my first lesson in real estate and like the shell game, but also how, that there's really good people out there like Patrick and Jax who are going to look out for your bottom line. Not only did he save us a ton of money, but like that was when I started to get really interested in real estate. I was like, oh, like this could be really interesting.
Well, and the funny part is, I think the reason that people, first of all, don't really even like to talk to mortgage people or all that, I think there's a fear there, because no matter how many times I talk to people all day and I talk about how I love math, I like especially in mortgage, the creativity of it, sort of the shifting of numbers around and stuff like that. And I'll just never forget how all these people are like, oh, math, it's so hard. And there's like this perception around math that it has to be difficult and challenging and that nobody can break it out in a way that you could understand, which kind of, I don't know, I guess it sort of cracks me up. It goes back to what you and I were discussing prior to the show, is that a lot of times we see problems when they don't really necessarily exist, and we make more challenges for ourselves. And I'm the number one worst candidate for this, because I am a classic overthinker. In fact, Ursula probably has to tell me all the time, hey, Jax, like, let's maybe not do that whole part there.
Okay, but I'm going to stop you, Jax, because you're one of the smartest people I know. And we've established that your giftedness makes your brain go really fast. And we can put a lot of negative labels on that. And that's a really good point, Jax. And we talked about this earlier. Dr. Joe Dispenza says we have 100,000 thoughts that go through our head every day. And most of those thoughts are negative because our subconscious mind is like, I got to keep you safe. I got to keep you safe. So it's like we're trained to see this quote unquote scary stuff that we make up to stay safe. When you can start to notice that the thoughts you had today are the same thoughts you had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that, that's how you can start to see the patterns that you've established. And if you take that into the world of selling, it's like, oh, what do I believe about salespeople? What do I believe about the sales process? And the number one, no matter, I used to speak on this topic all the time back in the day. I was doing a lot of sales training.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Imagine having the power to control your financial destiny, no matter where you start. Welcome to the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform, where financial education is tailored to your unique journey. We cover everything you need, from basic budgeting and saving strategies to advanced investing and retirement planning. Learn at your own pace with lessons that match your level of experience. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your financial knowledge, join our community of learners and benefit from shared insights and expert guidance. The Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform equips you with the skills and confidence to take charge of your financial future. Ready to master your finances? Enroll in our courses today at the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform. Start your path to financial independence now.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Hello and welcome to PBJ Mortgage, where your home ownership dreams become reality. Today, we want to share why choosing PBJ Mortgage is the right choice for your home financing needs. At PBJ Mortgage, we're built on a foundation of values that drive us every day. Our commitment to educate, empathize, and empower our clients sets us apart in the mortgage industry. Our clients are at the heart of everything we do, and their success stories speak volumes. With years of experience, our team possesses in-depth knowledge of the mortgage programs, ensuring you receive expert guidance and the best possible rates. We offer a diverse range of loan options to suit your unique needs, including conventional, FHA, VA, and more. No matter your situation, we've got a solution. At PBJ Mortgage, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service. Our dedicated loan officers are here to guide you every step of the way, making the process as smooth as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We understand that time is of the essence, which is why we've streamlined our processes for efficiency and convenience. Transparency and clear communication are paramount. You'll always know where you stand throughout your mortgage journey. Reach out to us today to set up a call to discover your options. If you're ready to make your home ownership dreams a reality, contact PBJ Mortgage today. Let us empower you during this exciting journey. Phone number 4-693-733-107 www.pbjteam.com. Visit our website or give us a call to get started. We look forward to helping you secure your future home. PBJ Mortgage, where home begins.
Thanks for your patience.
And the number one limiting belief that people had about sales is that you're going to think I'm being pushy. You're going to think I'm a pushy salesperson, and I don't like how that feels, and I don't want to be perceived as that, right? So what's interesting about your limiting belief about sales or selling is whatever the number one limiting belief is where you'll stop in the sales process. So if I don't want to be perceived as being pushy, that means I'm not going to ask for a next step. Like if you don't say yes in a conversation, then I'm not going to ask for the next meeting, or I'm not going to ask for payment, or I'm not going to ask you to move forward, right? I'm going to stop and I'm going to be like, this is classic. And there's no shame in the game, by the way. This is like just how we're trained and socialized. We're not trained how to sell. Then I'll be like, okay, Jax, you know what? Just let me know. Give me a call back. Let me know in a couple of days or next year how you feel about this, right? And it's the classic kind of push off because it keeps me safe.
Right.
And so to shift that, you want to look at like, what's not true about me being a pushy salesperson, or you, whoever's listening, being a pushy salesperson if you're in sales. And what's not true about it is you're there to serve. Like you wouldn't be listening to Jax's podcast. You wouldn't care that much. Like if you were a narcissistic salesperson who didn't care about people, you wouldn't be here trying to better yourself. I guarantee you. So I already know this about you. What I know is that you want to make a difference. You want to serve. So there's all these things that aren't true about that. And so once you start to see what's not true, that limiting belief, whatever it is, starts to fall away. And then you can take on a new belief. My favorite belief, which lots of people who've heard me speak love this. So everybody, you're welcome to take this on. Instead of a pushy salesperson, I am a professionally persistent problem solver. And that's what you are, Jax. Like you get somebody in front of you and you're going to do hat tricks to figure out how to either get them the best mortgage deal or refer them to somebody else. Like that's what you're going to do, right? So you're a professionally persistent problem solver. That's what we do all day long. And when you can really step into the feeling, the energy of that, it's very relieving because then it's not about you, it's about the person you're here to serve. And then the sales start to happen.
Well, for me, so the way that I overcome that, because for a really long time, it's funny, when I used to be in call center sales, I sometimes, like, I always would build rapport with people. I would want to understand like where they're coming from and all these things. And my now husband, who sat a couple of cubes away from me, would literally ping me when he would hear me talking to people, and he'd say, just ask for the credit card. Like they're already sold, because I would just have such a hard time, with that, because I'm just trying to be helpful. But what helps me now is I remind myself that without me, they're going to have a much harder path. right? Like I am coming from a place of help. I know that I'm a professional. I also know how many people in my space are not professionals, who do not act correctly, who don't do their jobs well. And so if I don't help, then what's going to happen to that person, right? So me not, pushing a little bit forward to see like where, if they're ready to go forward or not. It's not necessarily me trying to push them outside their comfort zone. And I always make that quite clear that, hey, this is your decision completely. However, I also will push them a little bit because I want to ensure their well-being. I tell this story, and I've told it a few different times. So there's a very good friend of mine that she and I went to preschool together.
Okay.
And single woman, she never married, and she reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm considering buying a house, but I'm really just not sure. I'm a single woman. I don't necessarily know if, that's a good and wise idea. And I said, okay, help me understand why you're saying that. Well, what if things break? And I said, well, there's ways you can insulate yourself from that, right? With warranties, etc. Plus, you do have a tribe that's surrounding you, right? Like your family and friends that would probably help you. So you're kind of putting some stuff there that doesn't really need to be there. And I said, but I am going to tell you the one reason that I'm going to push you on your thought process and want you to consider buying a home. I said, number one, you're a teacher. So your income is very set. So unless you're choosing to change professions, which maybe you'll do, but I assume that that's not the case at this moment in your life. And if that's the case, you're going to have very small incremental increases in your monetary income. Right. And I said, what is going to happen, not if, but just when, is you are going to be priced out of the market because you're a single income household. You have a very, set budget as far as like what your actual income is. And we will come to a point in Dallas-Fort Worth area where the house prices are majorly going to exceed what you are going to be able to afford to pay. That's just the truth. And so then it's a conversation of, do I get somebody else to try to buy a house with me? You know what I mean? Do I have roommates and things like that? And so now we're in a very different conversation. And I said, so I'm never going to force you to buy a home. You have to make that call because I can't make that call for you. And I said, but I will challenge your viewpoint on wanting to purchase that house. And she bought the house. And now I think that house, and that was about, I'm trying to think what year that was. That was 13, I think. So about 11 years ago, that house is over triple in value what she bought. And I 100% can tell you from the math, because we've helped her do other loans since, there's no possible way she would qualify right now on its face, just being a single income earner, right? And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves when we are in a salesperson type mode, or even if you're just working at your regular job and maybe you don't feel like you're selling, but you are having conversations that are maybe a little bit sales in nature, because we all sell.
We all sell.
Believe that. Is that without your help, without your expertise, without what you can provide, what are they going to lack?
Yeah. What's the cost of not working with you?
That is correct.
In fact, that's a question I have. I'm teaching Nail Your Sales Script tomorrow. And that's one of the questions is, what is the cost of them not working with you?
For sure.
Or in your case, Jax, what's the cost of that? What could the cost have been for that teacher if she would have went to somebody else and they were like, like if they were not educating her because they just didn't think she could do it.
Right.
Where would she be today?
Well, or if they bought into her limiting belief that, well, I'm a single woman, so I can't buy a house by myself.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm a firm believer, in every single person who's ever listened to this podcast believes, I firmly believe that people can do anything. You are powerful beyond measure, and you have the ability built already inside you to do whatever it is you were set to do. It's not my job to tell you what that is, right? It's your job to kind of figure that out and like to listen to things to help you figure that out. But the truth is, if you want to do it, I don't care what anybody tells you, you can do that. Just set an intention and go forth.
Your job is to educate. And that's what you do so beautifully. That's why you have this podcast. That's why I was like, Jax needs a podcast.
I was going to say, we were talking about before the show. So just so we're clear, and I don't even think that you know this. So Trevor, who was a very first podcast guest, as well as he's also, I think he's been on your podcast.
Yes, and I've been on his. We did a swap because of you.
Okay, so I met Trevor quite a few years back at a thing called Video Marketing World, which is now turning, I think, to AI World or something. A good friend of mine actually was one of the owners. Scott Simpson is one of them, and the other one is now Austin Armstrong. So two really great guys. And Austin was actually on my podcast not horribly long ago. He's an amazing person. So anyways, I meet them and Trevor was there and he was doing little like kind of live call podcasting where he usually does his live, but he was recording podcast episodes that they were going to then air later. And my ops manager, Patrick, was like, hey, you really should do one. And I was like, I don't know. Cause I was really fighting being on video. Like I knew I needed to be, but I was like, I don't really want to. And when I was there, he goes, you know, you really should start a podcast. I think you have a voice. You should start a podcast. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I just sort of like ignored that comment. I was like, that's a good thought. I'm just going to ignore that. And so then fast forward, you become my coach. You asked me to be a guest on your podcast. And I was like, sure, I'd love to be a guest. I then start thinking, as you're telling me, you have a voice, you want to educate people, you should help. So I say, okay, great. And then I reach out to Trevor and Trevor's like, yeah, not only are you going to start a podcast, we're doing it like next week. And I was like, whoa. So a lot of times, again, we have limiting beliefs about things that we can do, the voices that we have, the people that we're serving and helping. And a lot of them are just noise. I mean, I probably could have started a podcast 2 or 3 years earlier, right? Reach more people, help more people, but I was afraid.
Yeah, we all are. We all have those fears. And the best advice that I was ever given, because I used to have a deep fear of public speaking back in the day, like a deep fear of public speaking, like panic attack. I've had panic attacks in front of 1,000 people, if you can manage. I'm good at like not showing that. There's a whole process. I don't have that anymore. But one of my mentors was like, you know, Ursula, you can choose to be afraid of getting on stage or picking up the phone and making calls or having a podcast or writing a book or whatever that is, that thing for anybody who's listening, right? Or you can realize it's not about you. And the sooner you get that it's not about you, then things will start to change. And I was like, oh, shoot, sorry.
She's getting so excited. She's like knocking everything off of her desk.
Dramatic effects for everybody. But you know what? That's when we can get past ourselves, which sometimes is the hardest thing to do. Because to your point earlier, it's like all these negative thoughts we make up about what could happen, what could go wrong, and all the things. And there's a book I read a long time ago called What If Up? What If Up? I don't know the author, so forgive me. We might have to put me anyway. But What If Up is all about like, what if things go right? So instead of like the what if it goes wrong, in that moment, you're like, well, what if it goes right? What if my podcast is really successful? What if Jax's podcast is really successful? What if it actually gets her in front of thousands of people? What if it actually really starts to serve the way she, you know, it's like you just start to go with that. And so that's one like way to shift those little stinky negative beliefs that are creeping in on us. So
yeah, it's interesting. I'm a classic perfectionist. I'm a classic overthinker. I think a lot of people always think that intelligence is always such a gift, and it is a gift for sure. Don't misunderstand me, but it also has its own set of like almost like a curse, because you get trapped in your own head about all the different things. And so I always felt like I needed to cover off on every single little bitty detail to make sure that I could come across as the polished professional, etc. But then I also realized that first of all, doesn't really make me very relatable, because none of us are perfect, just period. First of all, right? And then second of all, it's exhausting. Like it's exhausting trying to do it. I probably would have never launched this podcast if I thought it had to be perfect, because I'm not perfect all the time. I stumble over my words. I don't necessarily have the perfect polished plan for every podcast episode. I as most people know, I'm almost never wearing makeup. So you know what I mean? And I joke all the time about my 4,000 purple cups that are behind me. And so I talk about finances, but I'm not necessarily perfect either. Because here's over here me buying a bunch of cups. Like, oh, wait, do we want to see the most recent beautiful
those cups?
purple cup?
Nice. Yeah, like I love it.
And my house manager literally came in and he goes, why did you need that? And I was like, I didn't, but it has my name on it.
Right. We all have stuff. Yeah, we all have things. I think we're in a time too, you know, where it's finally okay to be transparent. And I remember podcasting when it first started, like people were, I have to have all the cameras and the right lighting. My favorite podcasts today, they don't. Period. End of story. It's like they're doing their thing. You can see them, you can hear them well. But other than that, I just want to know people's hearts. I want to know their authenticity. I want to know what they struggle with. Yeah.
Well, and the truth is that I think we're all starting to realize that everybody struggles in their own right. Right. And in a lot of ways with the exact same things. Maybe yours doesn't sound exactly the same in your head as mine sounds because of all my baggage, the things that are going on in my life and all those different things. And, you know, the truth of the matter is, but it's the same stuff. Right. So you don't have purple cups. Yours is something else, whatever it is. Right. But I bring up the purple cups to remind you that everyone has the thing. It's just what is the thing? What is the thing that, you know, you beat yourself up about? Because for me, it is that I'm like, man, why did I buy the 4,000th purple cup? I don't know. I didn't really need it, but it's something that I enjoy and I like, so I have purple cups. Um,
That one wasn't purple though that you held up, was
it's
it?
like bluish purple.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, with all the purple colorings, it kind of looks
Mhm.
more green
I
against your
know,
in the
yes,
background.
and it's funny because when we started the business and whatever, PBJ Mortgage actually almost was, navy as a color, navy and white, and like, "Wait a
Mm,
minute, I feel like this is a huge opportunity missed if we don't do purple, like grape
yeah,
jelly or whatever," right?
right.
And it just happened to also be my favorite color, so there's that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I just really enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, so like I think that, like I say all the time, you have to sort of be intentional. And we've been talking a lot in our coaching group about not just intentionality, but the vision behind
Mm,
like what you are
yeah,
intending. So I would
the
like you to
end.
speak to that because for me, I don't think I ever really thought about how important that visual in your mind is. But
Mhm.
it is. It's super important and how it can really shape and affect how you get to the end game that you're really looking for.
Yeah. And this is like I've been doing this for 2 decades, studying. My obsession is books. Like I have like probably 7,000 books on my Kindle, and then I just don't have as much room for my hard copies anymore, but books are my addiction.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Welcome to Financial Mastery Simplified, your go-to podcast for making smart money decisions. We break down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand advice you can use every day. Our experts cover everything from budgeting and saving to investing and retirement planning. We give you the tools to take control of your money and build the future you want. With Financial Mastery Simplified, you'll feel informed and empowered to make the best choices for your financial health. Tune in to Financial Mastery Simplified on your favorite podcast platform. Start your journey to financial confidence today.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Welcome to House U, where we believe in the power of education. At House U, we're more than just a brand. We're your partner in home ownership, dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering you every step of the way. Education is at the heart of everything we do. We offer comprehensive resources designed to make home ownership simple and accessible for all. From understanding mortgage options to mastering home maintenance, House U provides the knowledge you need to make informed decisions with confidence. We host workshops and seminars, bringing together experts and community members to share insights and build a stronger, more informed community. Because when you're educated, you're empowered. House U, home ownership made simple for all. Visit our website or contact us today to start your journey with House U. Empower yourself with knowledge and embrace the joy of home ownership.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to our conversation.
I've been, I just anytime I can find something that's going to help our clients, right? That's what I love to do. So I can experience it and share it. And this year I've just come across some really interesting stuff that's taking what I already know. I'm certified in NLP. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So in NLP, you talk a lot about the end result and working backwards. What's become clearer and clearer to me though, is it's more than that. And by the way, I totally get for your listeners who are like, I'm not visual, I don't see things. I get that. That's why you want to bring in all your senses. However, for those of you who think you're not visual, pink elephant. Okay, you all just thought of one. You can't not. Like you got the pink. So that's how you know you're like you can conjure up an image because if I say pink elephant, everyone you know what that looks like in your mind. So that's how you create an image, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. I think people get stuck on I don't get the perfect image. It's the beyond the like what's one step beyond the end result. So for example, health. We're in the New Year's time. A lot of people say, I want to be healthy. They might put a, picture or they might say health on their goal. Like I want to be 100% healthy. Well, what's interesting is mind is going, I thought I was healthy. Well, maybe I have to make you not healthy so then you can experience health. Well, we don't want that. Cancel all of that, right? So what's one step beyond health? What would that mean in your life? For somebody, it might mean, I was talking to a client the other day who's doing an Ironman. That's not my thing.
Mine either.
However, I admire people greatly who do it. So for them, health could be crossing the finish line and being hugged by their friends and family members at the Ironman, whatever it is, right? That's the end result. If it's success in your business, what would be a representation of that success? Maybe at the end of the year, you have a goal that when you hit 7 figures or you break through 7 figures, you're going to take your whole team is going to Costa Rica, I don't know, or Las Vegas, and you're going to have this dinner out. Well, that's what I want your visual to be. And it's your visual. So you picture, and you're not watching yourself, right? You're actually there in the moment with your team members. You can smell the ocean. You can, you hear the sounds that are around you, all your, your sight, your senses, your hearing. And then most importantly, what does it feel like in the moment? So in your stomach, I'm pointing at my stomach, your core area, what's that feeling, and taking that and multiplying it by 100. So you're getting in touch with all your senses. So think about the step beyond the step. And that's a piece that I think has been missing a lot, because a lot of people just picture the end step, but then it's like missing something. So it's like, go through the finish line. What's on the other side of that?
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. I think also for me, it's a very long story, but I'm going to make it short. So I met this woman through some group, and she asked if, people would be willing to do this like little therapy piece, like session type thing with her, right? For testimonial. And I'm pretty open, like as in I pretty much would tell a random stranger my life story if they ask about it, because I thought that maybe it would help them. I would tell them. Doesn't bother me, right? I mean, pretty much open book on that. So I was like, oh, sure. And maybe it'll help me in the process. So who knows? And she and I are talking through, and you know more than maybe all the listeners do, that I've had some challenges with some of the stuff that I've dealt with my parents, because my parents are wonderful, amazing people. But there definitely has been this sort of exacting standard that has sort of been on me my whole life. And so it comes across as in a kind of a negative way towards me, I suppose. And even though that I know that that's not their intention or their heart, I think their intention is to try to make me better and to try to push me forward, which I can appreciate as a parent. But on the same token, it has kind of negatively affected me and made me even more in my own head about perfectionism and doing all the right things and whatever. And as we're going through this conversation and stuff like that, she looks at me and she says, first of all, it's amazing. You're very self-aware. And I was like, I appreciate that, because I worked on that for a long time, to really dig deep and to ask myself hard questions and to try to make myself aware of like my own limiting beliefs and my own thoughts and like what was holding me back and all of this stuff. And she's like, why don't you just let that stuff with them go? And as weird as it sounds, the fact that she just asked me that question, it was like, until she said it, my brain didn't even know that was a choice. I think sometimes we get so caught up in all of the stuff going on that we don't realize that this super simple, easy choice is just the right one. So whether it's just like a super limiting belief, a challenging relationship, or whatever it is. And my brain was like, yeah, I could just let it go. Not that every day that was going to be simple, right? Obviously, but I don't think that a lot of times when we are going through some of these challenges and things, when we're doing some of these visuals, trying to get to where we want to be, that we really think through that sometimes it just is that simple enough to sit down, write down our intention, think into it, like put that vision into our minds and just get it.
That's beautiful. And I also think because you've done so much work and you are self-aware, that you were really ready for that question to be like, oh yeah. Cause someone else might've been like, I'm really angry at my parents. But you were like, you know what? Yes. I love that. Just the way your brain was like, that question, you could just take it and run with it.
Yeah. And like I said, I think, and one of the things that I preach more than anything on the podcast is really being self-aware, right? Realizing that you are limitless in your possibility, trying to be intentional, because no matter what topic we discuss, whether it be exact money, right? And investing, whether, and practical application, or deep, internal kind of stuff. The truth of the matter is that you do have to have those pieces with anything you pick, right? Like you have to intentionally learn the basic mechanics of like how money works, because there's certain laws that no matter if me and Ursula want them to change, they're just not going to change. Compounding interest isn't going to change because Ursula and I just thought to ourselves, we don't really like it that way. We just want it to be some other way. Like that's not how math works. Like the math is the math.
Right. Can't change that. Yeah. But we can change how we feel about that, or how it affects us, or what we want to do with our money.
Correct.
And, money is, certainly one of the things that I've worked a lot on in my own life, because growing up, we didn't have a lot. And it's funny being in the sales space and having started businesses and running businesses or speaking on stages or, whatever, people can make a lot of assumptions about my background. And that's one of the things I like to dispel, because then it creates these, people can create boundaries of what they think they can create. And the truth is, like, I grew up without a lot of money. Like, we had food stamps, and sometimes we grew up in a small family farm. The nice part about it was we had food, right? We definitely always had food, but there were a lot of challenges in rural America, a lot of challenges. And my parents separated when I was 4. And it was like, there was just a lot of dysfunction, like a lot of people, right?
For sure.
And I share this because no matter what has happened to you as a child in your past, you can still, to your point, Jax, create whatever you want. And you don't have to create it in a way that's not healthy for you. And I think that's where I went in the beginning of my life. Like, yeah, I wanted to make a lot of money. I did not want to live the way I had grown up. And if I had children someday, which I didn't know if I would, I had my son much later in life, I wanted him to have different options and a different relationship with money. But that required a lot of work. And in the beginning, my limiting belief was that you had to work hard to make a lot of money, physically hard. Because coming from the farm, that's what we did. We did 24 hours. Like, farm never stops running. So it was always physical labor. And so taking it in the corporate world did not go very well. I ended up having chronic shingles in my 20s. Not fun, right? But my body was saying, hey, like, you got to change something. Something's going on here. And that's what put me on this journey. So when I left corporate America, I started my own business, but I started my business with the belief that I could do it in a way that was healthy for me. And so in addition to like helping clients find their way, in sales and business growth, I also love the health space, right? Because if we're not taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, it's pretty tough to run a business.
Oh, for sure. Well, and like I said, money, people, you're right. They have a lot of limiting beliefs. And I actually also, so I grew up like where my family actually had a fair bit of money, but because my mom came from not a lot of money and she never wanted to go back to that place, in a weird way, it was like we were raised like we didn't have money.
Makes sense.
And so we were taught that like everything had to be hard. And it's not even until probably pretty recently that I've realized that everything does not have to be so hard, that I really can raise my hand and ask for help, because that was not something that I ever was taught or did well, is asking others for help. And I think a lot of times people keep themselves in those spaces, like you said, either, stay safe, etc. But if you look around and you look at all the stories that really like move you, right? Where people came from awfulness or nothing and they achieve things. Well, why is that? Because they were willing to make some of those hard, like really look internally and really be intentional and say, okay, I'm going to make an adjustment here, right? I want to overcome that. Something is broken. Something is not working right. And no matter what family you came from, whether it was the most beautiful, wonderful, caring, whatever, down to super dysfunctional, total lack of resources of every kind, right? Emotional, financial, all of the things, like, it doesn't matter. Everybody is capable of looking at that and coming out of that. It might be a little easier if you kind of started, kind of up here. But the truth is that we all have that ability and that capability to do that. Have you ever, I know you like to read, and I don't know if you ever heard of this book. Have you read the book called Life is a Piece of Cake by Cupcake Brown?
No.
It's a fascinating book about a woman who it was crazy. Like, she was in the foster care system. She was sexually abused at a very young age. All these kind of crazy things, addicted to drugs, like everything. And now she is an attorney.
Wow. Love
and
it.
Just like this whole process of like how she went through her life and the things that she did, to basically overcome. And so I think so many times, we look at those people and we're like, oh yeah, but they're not me. But again, I firmly believe that each and every one of us is built with that ability inside of them to be able to do great things. It's your choice whether you choose to tap into it or not.
Right. Well, and every hard thing, you either look at it like, okay, that was really hard and that's going to take me down, or man, that helped me develop resilience, right? Like,
for sure.
I mean, the woman who wrote Piece of Cake, like, she has so much resilience in her now. And, if you can channel it into, I've been through the hard stuff. I always joke, like, hard work is throwing hay bales when it's 110 degrees and your brothers make you go under the hot tin roof and you have to be inside. That's hard work. Everything else after that, not so much. I feel like it's perspective, right? It's perspective.
It is.
And so I agree with you. Like, and it might mean getting help. I'm actually trained as a marriage and family therapist. A lot of people don't know that. I throw it out sometimes. My husband always laughs at me because I wanted to get a master's degree in coaching, but I didn't there wasn't one that existed. Marriage and family therapy, solution focused counseling was the closest thing I could find to coaching. Because I also went to law school for 5 minutes and that wasn't for me. But anyway, so that's how I ended up over there. In that space, I was like, ooh, I love this. And my point is though, like, just like for me, getting the degree helped me a lot. Like I got to take all these classes, I got to work on myself. And then in order to graduate, you do counseling, you do therapy for others. And I was like, like it was just so much growth. So I'm a huge proponent of mental health. And we live in a time when it's kind of, glossed over, and we talk about it more, but I still don't think we talk about it enough. My point being, if you've never been to a great therapist or a great life coach, highly recommend that.
Oh yeah.
I actually have a QNRT therapist now, quantum neuro reset therapist. There's not a lot of them in the world.
Interesting.
There's quite a few in Minnesota, and it was born actually out of something called German New Medicine, which I'm also very fascinated with and obsessed with. But yeah, QNRT, very interesting. So QNRT is like, how do I even explain it? When I work with Nancy Sazlo, she's my QNRT therapist. She does these really cool things that I can't even explain because she's trained in it and I'm not, but she can tell right away where something is stuck in my brain. And it's like a trauma from like 5 years old, or a trauma from, and she can tell you when the trauma was from. And then she'll be like, what happened at this age? And I'll be like, there's this thing. And she's like, all right, well, what you're stuck in. So it's a little bit of muscle testing kind of within this cool thing that she does. And she'll say, well, whatever happened, you felt shame around that. And now that's showing up in your life in sales, for example. So she'll tie it to a current thing. It is mind blowing. And it's one of my favorite methodologies, because you don't have to, like, I've been to talk therapists and sometimes that's really helpful. And sometimes Nancy just gets to sit and listen to what I am throwing up on her in that moment. But then she takes it and goes, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to tell you exactly when it happened and like what you're working on and what's tied to in your life right now. Part of that is just helping get the brain unstuck. So you're not like where we started earlier. So you're not cycling around the same thing over and over, which is keeping you stuck now. So past trauma can be showing up and keeping you stuck now.
No, agreed. Well, and that's actually the whole reason that I created Financial Instincts Framework, is because I'm trying to help people figure out where some of these blocks are, because with the money piece, you're finding that, the traditional rules didn't apply. They're trying everything, every way that they can to do all the right things, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of times the reason the right things aren't necessarily working is, number one, they may not be right for you. And number two, what do you have that's stuck over here on the financial viewpoint belief system that is not allowing you to do any of those things? Like, even if you try to do something that should work for you, it won't, because you're going to keep coming back against the same block and you're just not going to realize it. All you're going to do is keep hitting the wall and feeling like a financial failure. And then, you're going to go down the path of being the failure on all the other pieces. And it's just not going to yield to a good and a solid place. And so I think a lot of people just don't realize and recognize the blocks with money and otherwise, right? And so that's a really cool way to figure out how to get unstuck. Well, we're coming up against time. And so I'm going to let you kind of share with everybody what kind of offer you have, and also maybe your biggest takeaway. But we so appreciate you coming on the conversation at some point when you're not, I know you're so busy all the time, but we'll have to have you back on, because it was a fascinating conversation and you and I love to go deep. So there's that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We could talk about all the things. Yeah. So, you want me to talk about the masterclass I had?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Please do.
Yeah. So I created something called the Belief Zone Masterclass. So if you like what Jax and I were talking about today when it comes to your beliefs and shifting them, what percentage of your listeners would you say are business owners? That was the question I was going to ask.
That's a really good question. I would say that a fair bit of them are, probably 60-70%. We have a lot of women listeners, which is really kind of who I drive towards anyway and stuff like that. Yeah. But I would say a good chunk of them are business owners.
So the Belief Zone Masterclass is for business owners. However, and this is why I was asking, like, you could insert a different challenge that you're having and you want to shift a belief around. So this one in particular is to activate a new belief zone to 2x, 3x, or 10x your revenue this year. And it'll do a couple of things. One, it'll help you get crystal clear on the revenue amount that you really want. And then it'll help you dive into and notice, like Jax was just talking about, like, what am I pushing up against when it comes to growing my business? Am I stuck in some beliefs around scarcity? Like, I can't hire to grow, but I can't not hire. Or I feel pushy as a salesperson, and it'll help you shift that limiting belief. So I'm sure, Jax, you'll include the link in the show notes and you can get it there.
Absolutely, for
Thank you
sure.
for letting me share
Well,
that.
and thank you so much for your time, and hopefully this was helpful to the audience. And so we hope to see you back on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified, and come back and see us next week.
Thanks, Jax. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.